Patricia, please tell us more. What is post-editing and how does it affect within the range of services in a translation or a translator can offer within the localization company?
Okay, so post editing is a little bit different from translation, because translation, you get a source text and you read the source text and you start translating from scratch. And when you're dealing with post editing, you already have the machine translation output. So the computer already translated the sentences from the source text, which is English in our case, right? Usually, and then it already provided a draft translation. So the post editing consists in reading this draft translation generated by the machine and then checking which is good enough to use and which parts have to be edited. So this is post editing. So um, as a translator, as translators, we should try to provide the most amount of services we can. And post editing is a type of service that is very common nowadays. So in the past, probably you could be only a translator and provide only translation service. But nowadays, you should be prepared to provide post editing services as well, because it is a little bit different. It requires different skills, and you will probably get projects with post editing requirements. So you should be able to do it if you want to get as many jobs as you would like. Right.
Okay, and do you think that currently post-editing is growing? Do you get to work in more projects every time?
Yeah, I feel it is growing. I think that perhaps like 5 years ago, it there was like a boom, so it grew a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, I think it grows a little bit every time, especially with bigger companies who are able to invest in machine translation, right? For smaller companies, I think it's still um, not it's still not the norm, because it takes money to invest in machine translation, so not all companies will be able to do that. So we are still going to have some jobs as translation and some as post editing for a while, I think. What do you think, Laura?
So a couple of things there. First of all, as Patricia was saying, post editing is a different skill and is another service. And if you are a localization professional, why not offering another service like I mean, I suppose the localization industry, and not only the localization industry, I suppose many other industries as well are changing so rapidly with technology, um, and we man and machine kind of need to adapt and go side by side. So the more a translator or a localization expert they can offer, the better for them. There would be things like data annotation as well that maybe they could offer, evaluation, empty evaluation for creation of machine translation models. I mean, there are many other things that can be offered. So, so basically, if you are a translator, why not? Why not learning this new skill and opening yourself to offer more services? Having said that, I would say that people need to be trained well. This is not bilingual review,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to be done properly, because otherwise there could be issues left there and nobody wants that. We could talk about that later. And I suppose just to comment a little bit on what Patricia was saying regarding everything exploded a few years ago, and it had to do with the fact that the actual technology changed, and the I suppose the new state-of-the-art technology, neural machine translation, was took an uptake. Everybody started using it, and I suppose the change of quality was so impressive, I suppose, for many languages that people realized that there was great profit to be had. Okay.
Can you tell us more? You talked about a little bit about quality, and maybe Patricia, you can contribute. Are there any quality expectations different from post editing, and in terms of content, in when you compare it with translated content? What are the different levels on post editing?
I suppose if I put my quality management hat on now, and this is for everything, this is not only for post editing, there's always some quality expectations that need to be set up in a project. Sometimes people have more, I suppose, more freedom to interpret. Sometimes people need to be super strict on terminology, and not only on terminology, sometimes even in the way they structure the target language. Like, for instance, in patents, it needs to follow very closely the original language, whether it sounds right or not in the target language. So there's always quality expectations, and translators in general, they are really used to that. So if we move to post editing or post edited content, of course there are different quality expectations sometimes, but if it's full post editing, let's say what we call full post editing, the quality expectations is that the target is going to read as if it was written from a by a native speaker, in the same way as translation is. Having said that, and Patricia can elaborate on that, there are different levels of post editing, like light post editing as well.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what Laura said. It depends on the project, on the client. It is important to uh, for the instructions, for the expectations to be clear for every project, because the same client could have texts that they would like to be very high quality, and other texts that are not so visible, so they do not have to be so so good, so let's see, for example, if we have a website that is going to be checked by the user, so it has to be almost perfect, it has to be very good. But if we have internal communications, perhaps emails, perhaps I don't know, something like this, we do not need that high level of quality. It depends on the client. Some clients do prefer that all of their texts be very high quality. So it is up for the negotiation to handle this situation. So if we do, we should have some terminology here. So as Laura said, we have light post editing and full post editing. These are just some names. Some other professionals might use other names. There might be different levels in between these two also. So it is very good to have a document saying, well, to me, light post editing consists in just only the essential things,
Mhm.
to not leave any errors, but it is okay to leave style inadequacies, something like this. But full post editing for me means, and then you explain that it perhaps means, well, checking everything from punctuation to grammar to style. So it is clear for the post editor who is going to perform the activity to know which quality they are aiming at, because the same text, if you the same machine translated text, you can approach it different ways. If you try to use a light post editing approach, it will be faster, it will require less effort. And if you are aiming at full post editing, it will take more time, it will take more effort, more research, so the payment will also be different. So this is important as a post editor to be sure what the client expects for that specific project.